Welcome along. So today we are going to be looking at how you can create your very own transitions that you can use in OBS for your Twitch streams. I guess actually for any streams, but the one we're using is Twitch because that's what I primarily stream on. If you want to see what that looks like, here's an example. And it's really easy to do. We will also be using Davinci Resolve as our method of editing this together. So if you're not familiar with Davinci Resolve, I have a video all about that here. And if you're not familiar with OBS Studio, I also have done a video about that here. I actually don't know where those links are going to appear. They'll be somewhere, but I will put them in the description either way. So if you're new to all of these things, check out that description at the bottom and you can get the links for everything. So let's roll the intro. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do if you're going to create one of these transitions is you need to find something that has a transparent background. You can find all kinds of stuff all over the internet, or you can make an image of your own, of course. Or you need to find something that has a solid background that we can kind of remove from that image. PNGs are perfect if you can find those with transparency, because you can use that really easily. But I'm also going to be showing you in this how we can use Davinci Resolve to actually remove backgrounds from, say, an image. So if it's completely black, we can remove the black color. If you have something that's against a green screen, we can remove the green screen really easily as well using the exact same method. So I'm going to be going through all of that. This will be the foundation of how we can build all kinds of things that pop up on our stream and all kinds of ways in which we can customize the stream going forward. So this is a really good starting place for that. Now, this weekend coming up, I'm actually doing a charity stream, and we're raising money for special effects. So what I would like to do is create a transition that will link into a number of screens that I have set up for that specific charity stream that I'm doing. So one of our Mutiny crew members, that is the Discord community that I'm a part of, which is a streamer community, details down in the description. They were very kind to go and make kind of a hybrid PNG that is a cross between the Mutiny Crew logo and also the special effect logo. So I feel that that'll be really good to use as our image that's going to come in and be our transition. So I'm going to make this in the same way. So my idea is that the image will fly into the screen, completely cover the screen, and when it flies away again, that will reveal the second part of our scene. So this is how we will generate our transition. Just the thing to keep in mind when you're choosing an image or a PNG or whatever you're using, it must be able to fully cover the screen at some point. If it's something that's kind of super skinny, or if it's something that's kind of got transparency in the middle or any gaps, anything like that, it won't be as effective because you'll be able to see the point when the transition kicks in. So just make sure that whatever it is that you choose is going to not have any transparency in the middle and is big enough at some point to cover your whole screen. This also comes into the fact that we're going to be making whatever image you use pretty large. It's going to fill your whole screen, so make sure it's a higher quality image as you can possibly find. So if you are considering doing this with maybe your images from your emotes and you only have an image that is, say, 112 pixels, that might look really pixelated in here. So just keep that in mind when you choose which image you're going to use. So we need to head on over first of all into Davinci Resolve. Okay, so when we first open up Davinci Resolve, we first of all need to create a brand new project. So we'll go ahead and do that with new project. We will call this one Special Effect Transition. Hit create. So guys, do remember that if you are not familiar with Davinci Resolve, I did a complete beginner's guide that is linked in the description. So if you've never used this before, I would suggest that you go check that video out first and then come back into here. So the first thing in here that we need to do is we need to come into our project settings. Remember, that is the little cog in the bottom right hand of the corner. It's actually kind of where I am. It's like down here somewhere. So you can tap that. And we need to make sure that everything in here, our timeline resolution, is going to be matched to what we are going to be streaming. So my OBS setup is 1080p, so that's what we want to make sure it is in here. So just make sure that that matches whatever you're doing. It will make your life a little bit easier. So in here, I'm going to choose the 1920 by 1080 HD. I'm also going to make sure that the timeline frame rate matches that of my stream. I'm going to change that to 60. If yours is set to 30, make sure that matches. You want to make sure that the playback frame rate is also the same. We'll go ahead and change that there. And that's pretty much all that we need to do at this point. So go ahead and save that. So the next thing we need to do is to choose our media. I'm going to right click on the media pool area here. Here we have a PNG that was made by one of my Mutiny crew friends. So I'm going to choose this one and put OK. Now you might want to add some sound effects to this, like a whoosh or something like that. So make sure if you're going to do that, you also add your sound effects in here too. So the next thing that we need to do is across the bottom, we need to move across here to the edit tab. And we need to pull our PNG image, which we can see up here, down into the timeline. So let's just make that a bit bigger so we can see what we're actually doing here. Let me move that up a little bit there. If we take a look at this and if we play it, that's really quick. I mean, yeah, that is a pretty quick transition, right? We need it to last longer than that. So my transition is about 3 seconds long in total. Yours might be longer. So decide how long you want your transition to be. Do you want it to be 5 seconds, 10 seconds? In my case, I'm going to make this 3 seconds long. So what we can do is we can just grab the right hand side of our image here, hold down our left mouse and pull this along and extend it until this is 3 seconds long. Let's keep going. There we go. That's now 3 seconds long. Zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole thing. Could you see that when it was actually telling me how many seconds long it was? If you're unsure, what you can do is drag your playhead to the very end here and then look up at the top right and you can see there it is showing it is now 3 seconds long. So what is going to happen is at the midpoint of this, if we come to 1 minute and 30, which is exactly half, this will be our transition point. So this is going to be the middle. So whatever we do, we need to make sure that this image completely covers the screen at that middle point. So now that we've got the 3 second image ready here, before this will allow us to export correctly, we actually need to convert this. So what I need you to do is to right click on this video and hit new compound clip. Don't need to worry about renaming it, just click create. And that has kind of merged everything down. Okay, so now what we need to do is we're going to try and add that transparency to the background. So we click on the clip, make sure it's highlighted red, and then we're going to skip this tab here and we're going to go straight over to the color tab. Now we haven't spent much time in the color tab in our previous tutorial, but don't worry, it's the bits we're going to go through today are really quite simple. Up here is what we call a node. And basically, this will allow us to apply effects to that particular clip. So you can see over here on this left-hand side, the compound clip is highlighted with a red line. If you had multiple clips in here, you would actually see them all along this bar here. But as we only have one, we're just doing the one on the left-hand side there. So if you're working with multiple clips, just be aware that make sure that you are clicked on the clip that you actually want to work with and not tabbed onto the wrong one. I'm only saying that because I've done it myself. So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to add what we call an alpha channel into this area. So transparency in video is called alpha. So what we do to enable that is we right click on anywhere here in the background, little right click there, and we choose this option here, which is called add alpha output. And then what we need to do is left click on this little blue square just here, hold it down and drop it onto this little blue square there. Then we need to do exactly the same, but we need to connect this green dot here to this here. So what you can see is when we joined up those two bits, look at the background on here. Can you see how it's gone grey? What that means is those grey areas are now transparent, which is exactly what we want. So what we'll do is we will go and check with a solid colour and just make sure that it is actually transparent. So we can go back to our edit tab. I'm just going to move my video track up one. So I just grabbed it and dropped it up a level. And in this video one, I'm going to come to my generators and I'm going to choose in here solid color. And if I just hold and drag that across, we get our solid color here. We'll make that a bit shorter so it's the same length. And then we need to change the color of this solid color because currently, if I click on it here, you see it's highlighted. Let me just pull this down so you can see a bit better. So you can see I've now highlighted this solid color. And if we look up at the top right, it's showing that it's black. So it's very difficult to tell if there's any transparency applied here. Let's maybe make that blue. There we go. So now we can really, really clearly see what this is going to look like. So that looks perfect to me. Now, if you weren't using something that already had a transparent background, what you would need to do is you would come into this color tab here. You would need to choose this button that is called qualifier. You would click on here. There's a little drop down just to the right, and you would need to change that to 3D. You can actually use HSL, Luminance, or any of these, but they all have slightly different effects. But the one that works for me the best is I just use 3D. And then you've got this selection range here. With this, you can choose a color or a color range that you want to be transparent. So let me just show you what that does. So let's just say that actually we also wanted transparency to be in the white section in the middle. So if I use this color dropper and draw a line down that white section, what you can see is it's gotten rid of all of the wrong bits. That is absolutely not what we wanted. And the reason for that is we actually need to invert our selection. So you can see here, there is a little invert button. If we click that, you can see now it has just removed that white section from the middle. So you would use that on your background area if that is what you were wanting to remove. Now, there are little tweaks that you can do within here. You can use this tool, which is called despill, if you are using a green screen. So sometimes with green screen images, it leaves like a green cast, which is a bit weird in the background when you use this tool. The despill will remove that, so that's really useful. If you find that it's not quite as tidy as you want it to be, you have some options down here, such as clean black, clean white. You can kind of move them up and down and just try and tweak things until they look like you would expect. So can you see how that's affecting the image there and kind of blurring out the black? There's a second page here as well, so you can come in here and change the black clip and the white clip. Basically just fiddle around with these until it looks like how you want it. If you make any mistakes on here, you can reset any of these values by clicking the little kind of twirly arrow here on the right hand side. And that's pretty much all that you need to do at this point. Now, we actually don't want this because we were quite happy with what we had previously. So what I'm going to do is just to undo that transparency that I put on the white, I'm going to hit the little trash can here, and you can see that's now removed it. So it's reset as to how we were before. So I've come back over to our edit tab. Now what we need to do is go ahead and animate this. So just so it's easier for us to see what's happening, for now, while we do this, I'm going to leave the blue background on, but we need to make sure that we take that off before we go ahead and export this. So this next bit, I think, is the fun part. It's where we put in our animation. So I think with this particular one, it'll be most effective if it kind of zooms in and then zooms out again, just because of the shape of it. It kind of lends itself to that rather than a sweeping motion. And I just like that kind of vibe anyway. So what we need to do is we need to remember, find the center point. And what we need to do is make sure that this image completely covers all of the blue that is on here. This is why it's good to have a bright background to work with, so you can make sure there's no blue peeking in there. So I can see that we are on the 1:30 mark. So 1 minute and 30 seconds is exactly half of 3 seconds. Did I say 1 minute and 30? I went 1 second. And anyway, you know what I mean. So at this point, it needs to cover the whole screen. So to do that, currently we've got our solid color selected. We want to make sure we've got our top clip selected for our image. We need to come up to the transform area up here on the top right, and we need to start using keyframes. So we did look at keyframes in our Getting Started tutorial, so you should be familiar with these. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a keyframe on the zoom, we're going to put a keyframe on the position, and if you want to make this spin, that's entirely up to you. You could also put a keyframe on the rotation angle. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to transform here in the drop down, which will allow me to freely move this around a little bit easier. I'm going to zoom out. I'm using my middle mouse there to zoom out so I can see the whole canvas. And I'm going to make this big so that, remember, we want it to fill the entire canvas. So you can see that still be blue in the edges there. We need to make sure that is completely gone. So that is going to be our middle point. We've got all of our keyframes set. That will be our middle point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the beginning. So we grab our playhead, drag it back to the beginning. We're going to reset all of these items here. And then we're going to grab these corners and we're going to make them super small. Zoom as small as we possibly can. And then we're going to get the playhead and we're going to take it all the way to the end. The very last frame, make sure at the very last frame, you know it's the last frame because you see there's like a zigzag there. And we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to hit this one, and this one. And we're going to take it all the way in, as tiny as possible. So let's play that and see what it looks like. Let me just make that a bit bigger so you can see a bit better. So it's going to go all the way in, cover the screen, all the way out. And that's pretty much our animation. I'm quite happy with that. So what we need to do now, we're pretty much at the point where we're ready to export this, but we need to get rid of this solid color. So just come on here and just cut that out. Grab your video at the top and pull it back down to the first one. You don't really need to, but I'm a bit of a sucker for keeping things tidy. And then the last thing that we need to do is come through onto our Deliver tab. So this is where we export it. Now, this is where it's really important that you follow these steps exactly. Otherwise, it can get a little bit weird. So what you need to do is choose the custom option. You need to give it a name. So in this case, we will call it Special Effect Transition. So make sure you pick a location. Now you need to make sure that this next section here is changed from single clip, which is the default, over to individual clips. It will only allow you to add the alpha channel, which will give you the transparency if you export this as an individual clip. So just make sure that is selected. If it doesn't work for some reason, it's probably because you haven't done that. We can scroll down a little bit, and what we want to do is make sure that we are just on the video tab. You can leave the rest alone. They should be absolutely fine. The item that you want to choose in here is QuickTime. In the codec, we want GoPro Cineform, and we want to change the type to be 16-bit. And now, when we scroll down here, you will see there is a little option that says Export Alpha, and you absolutely 100% need to click yes. I always tick render at source resolution, and that is it. They are your settings. So just to confirm, make sure that you have individual clips selected, QuickTime, GoPro Cineform, RGB 16-bit, and Export Alpha. And then we can choose Add to Render Queue. The last bit that we need to do is then hit Start Render. And this is like super short. This should take literally no time at all. It was done in 3 seconds. It took it as long to export as the clip was. And that is it. That is pretty much it. Now, one last step that I do is that I actually convert them to a WebM file because they're a bit smaller and a bit easier for OBS to manage. So you can go ahead and do that too. So this is going to export as a movie file, so MOV file. But at this size, if it's only kind of 3 seconds long, it should be okay for OBS. So let's go have a look how we now apply that in OBS. So the next thing that we need to do is head into OBS Studio. Again, I mentioned at the beginning, if you're not familiar with OBS Studio, I did do a beginner's tutorial on how to use this. I 100% recommend it as it allows you to do amazing things like this. So if you're not using it, go download it. It's free and give it a try. 100% recommend. So yours might look a touch different to mine, but what you need to come to is there will be a section here where you have scene transitions and you need to click that. It might already just be visible on your screen, but I have mine linked together with controls. So if I switch over scene transitions, you'll see there's a very, very simple little drop down box here. So this is where you can take a look at any existing transitions. So you can see in here, we've got cut, fade, stinger. Then I've got my sausage spin, which is what we looked at the sample at the very beginning. But if we want to add a new one, what we need to do is choose add stinger. So a stinger is basically this kind of vibe where the image totally covers the screen at a center point and then reveals the second scene behind that. So choose add stinger. We just need to give it a name. So we'll call this special effect and choose OK. So in this screen, we just need to choose our video file. So we can go find our video file. So this is what was exported from Davinci, our little MOV file. Remember, you may also want to convert that, as we mentioned earlier, to a WebM file, but we'll click open. Now, the transition point, we can leave it in milliseconds, and then we need to set what is going to be the very middle of this. So if you remember that we said the whole clip was only 3 seconds long, so we need to make sure that in milliseconds, it is half of that. So a second is 1,000 milliseconds. So if we were to put 3,000 milliseconds, that is the 3 seconds. So all we need to do is half that. So it would be 1,500 milliseconds would be our center point. And then we can choose preview transition. So we can see that that zooms in and then reveals the B behind. Choose OK. And now what you should be able to see is that will actually be applied as your default transition to all of your scenes. Now, something that I discovered quite recently is you can actually set different default transitions to different scenes. If I come here on this current scene and I right click on here, there is an option that says transition override, and by default it will be to none, but you could actually change that so that it was, say, the special effect one in this case. So my plan for using this is that it will apply only to the screens that are my charity stream screens. That's a mouthful. And it won't affect any of my other overlays that I have set up. I'll set this up now and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is what our general gaming screen looks like. And what I've done is I've applied it to this and another scene. So let's just try that now. There we go. That looks lovely. And let's just try when we go back. That's it. So just to show you that that has only been applied to my two charity ones, let's go back to my usual just chatting screen. And we'll see my sausage there flying in and returning to me. And I can go to my in-game and we see my sausage flying in there. And one more time, we'll just take a look at our in-game charity screen. There it is. And again for our just chatting screen. Look at that. How cool. Well, I'm super pleased with that. What do you guys think? I love it. So guys, that is it. What did you think? Are you gonna have a go at setting up one of these transitions of your own? I think it's great that you can kind of pick up transitions for free, but it's really good to have the knowledge to know how to make your own personalized ones so that you can stand out even more from everybody else on Twitch. And there's a little kind of pride when you've made all of your stream assets yourself. So I'm currently working on removing all of the stuff that was previously like a free pack that I got off Stream Elements and replacing it with stuff that I've made myself so that my stream is completely unique. So if you decide to do the same, let me know down in the comments. I would love to see what you come up with and see how you've used this. I am also going to be doing future tutorials on how to create other assets, such as how to create your own animated camera border and of course overlays as well. So we'll be going down that path, but I felt this was a really good place to start as this is really simple, just to do a quick animation of something to have that kind of wipe transition there. So I hope that you found that really useful. If you do have any questions about anything that we've covered today, be sure to maybe just drop into my stream. I stream every single weekday morning from 9 AM UK time to usually around midday, sometimes a little bit later. So you can find me there every single day. Just come say hello. I'm happy to answer any questions and it'd just be nice to chat to you as well. You could also drop into the Discord. I'm always on there, so you can drop a message there or follow me on Twitter, all those kind of things. I'll make sure all of the contact stuff and links for all of the places you can find me are down in the description. So that is it for today. That's all we've got time for. I hope you found that useful and I will catch you in the next one. Honest to God, guys, check these guys out. Do check all the links that have been coming up and just check out the charity and see what they do. And if you want to do a charity stream to help raise money for special effect, just know that the team there will be there and they will give you all of the stuff that you need. They provide you with all these overlays and loads of guidance on ways in which will keep you safe while you're streaming as well. If you are planning something like 24-hour streams, they're just phenomenal. The support they've given is amazing.